Okay, it is 10:51, and there being a quorum present, I would like to call this annual meeting of the Church of the Ascension to order. Let us pray. Ever-living God, whose will it is that all should come to you through your Son, Jesus Christ, inspire our witness to him, that all may know the power of his forgiveness and the hope of his resurrection, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen. Lord, we remember before you those members of the parish and those connected to this parish who have died in the past year. Myrtle Haywood, Richard Brown, Susan McCoy, Florence Consorte, Evelyn McAteer, Jean Notto, Robert Sutton, Thomas Plant, Richard Matier Jr., Harry Pope, and Maureen Sutton. Rest eternal grant unto them, O Lord, and let light perpetual shine upon them. May their souls and the souls of all the departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Amen. Some organizing business for the meeting. We need to first appoint a clerk, parliamentarian, and tellers. I would like to make the motion that we appoint Ken Mensing as clerk of the annual meeting. Is there a second? Seconded by Mark Weisenreeder. All in favor? Aye. Appointed. I would like to appoint Ken Dyer as parliamentarian. Is there a second? Seconded by Pam Haywood. All in favor? Aye. Appointed. I would like to appoint Ellie Alden and Bill Riley as tellers of the election. Is there a second? Seconded by Pam Haywood. All in favor? Aye. Now to the reading of the minutes. We can proceed with the reading of the minutes unless there is a motion to forego the reading of the minutes. It's moved by Marge Clayton, seconded by Bill Riley. All in favor for foregoing the reading of the minutes? Aye. All right, we shall forego the reading of the minutes. As you know, polling and for this election had to happen differently this year. Ballots were sent out weeks ago, and people have had multiple opportunities and notices in order to return paper ballots for this election. I would like to close balloting at this time, to close the acceptance of paper ballots. Actually, if you have further paper ballots, please bring them up. If anybody has not in this room has not voted, this is your last chance. Just lay it on top right now. Okay. All right, at this time, I move that we close acceptance of ballots for this vestry and warden election. Is there a second? Seconded by Michael Gleason. All in favor? Aye. All right, balloting is closed. The tellers will take the ballots. As I explained, they are going to verify all the ballots with our membership list. The names will then be cut off, and then they will count the votes and return to me with the results once the votes have been counted. If we need to take a break while they do that, we can do that. However, in the meantime, we will proceed with my remarks. Oh, there goes the agenda. Oh, well. So a few weeks ago, one of the characters in a British sitcom I watch misquoted a speech that the Queen gave in 1992 and referred to 2020 as an annus horribilis rather than annus horribilis. One will be forgiven for not knowing the distinction between the two. Hopefully, I didn't sound too much like Madeline Kahn's character in Blazing Saddles during my sermon this morning, lamenting being tired, but it is quite simply the truth. This year has taken a lot out of all of us. The fact that we're having the annual meeting in this way, and to add to it, snow. If you looked at our budget from our reports from last year, you'll notice that there was nothing spent on snow removal because we didn't have any snowstorms last year, but of course, this year we do. I will rehash some of what happened over 2020 for the minutes this morning for posterity, for people who may look back and wonder 100 years from now, what happened in 2020? But you guys already know this. Beginning in February last year, week by week, we dealt with changing guidelines on how we could distribute communion as to avoid spreading this threatening new virus. At the March vestry meeting, second Tuesday in March, we were still discussing fundraising ideas for the late spring and fall. That was a Tuesday night. By Friday, the church doors were closed and in-person worship was suspended. We didn't miss a beat, though. Mass for that weekend was filmed and distributed via our YouTube page by Sunday morning. The next week, which was the Rose Sunday and Lent, we even had some of the choir come in to sing, and that too was recorded and distributed by the following Sunday morning. And then the buildings were placed on complete lockdown. Oh well, so we had to change plans again. We loaded up the truck and moved to Rectory. We set up a chapel/television studio in the dining room for what we thought would be a couple of weeks. We foolishly thought that we would be back in time for Easter, but no such luck. Holy Week and Easter were done through video masses from the rectory. And I'm so thankful that we did the choir CD a couple years ago, because that, along with a number of recordings that Edna Byrne made, plus some music that I purchased the rights to, made the videos more than just a dull affair of me talking to you from my dining room. And of course, with the building on lockdown, that meant that the normal business of the church had to be handled completely differently. From you paying your pledges, to making bank deposits, to setting up Margaret so that she could work from home. And of course, all of this was happening during a national toilet paper shortage. So, annus horribilis indeed. And we got through it. 3 months later, we were starting to envision how we might worship together again. The vestry made the decision in June to invest in and move forward with installing the cameras in this church. And if we hadn't done that, you wouldn't be watching this meeting right now. Thank you to those of you who gave generously to this project. It has meant so much to the life of this parish over this past year, and I'm confident that it's going to be a key thing for us for the future. We limped along all over the summer, still recording masses, but also having morning prayer services in the church again. And finally, in October, we were once again able to distribute communion in some form. But things aren't the same. I didn't even mention all the work that had to be put into moving Sunday school to be online, but I can tell you that without Lisa's work and dedication, it wouldn't have happened. We had to move our Sunday school, one of this church's great strengths, to an online format, which is very different. And the choir, another one of our church's great strengths, can't sing together like they used to. I'm very grateful to Ken and for the work of the quartet because without their voices, Christmas would have been a silent night indeed. But I'm sure that it is difficult for 4 or 5 voices to try and replace or stand in for the voices of the entire church. It's not the same. But through all the changes of this year, we've kept going. No matter how frustrating it has all been, we've been faithful. There have been baptisms and funerals, confirmations, weddings, anointings. The life of the church has continued despite this difficult year. Now, I wish that I could say that it's because I'm just fabulous, but it's not. One of the things that this year has really driven home for me personally is just how limited I am in some areas. There is nothing like a global crisis to let you know just what your strengths and your weaknesses are. And I have plenty of both. I'm very proud of much that we have done this year as a parish, but there have also been many times when I felt like I was failing and fast forward. Not calling everyone as often as I should, or failing to keep track of who was where or follow up with people. The fact is, none of us were ever trained to minister under these circumstances. So for any of my failures this year, I do ask your forgiveness and patience. At times this year, I have felt like one of those plate spinners that you used to see in the circus. Only I am sure that a few of my plates have hit the ground and shattered. I guess that's life. We are all learning how to adapt to all of this together. I am very proud, though, of how we have been able to pull through this as a parish. Despite the challenges, we have done some great things this year. We installed the new camera system to broadcast our services over the internet. We restored a clerestory window. We made repairs to the rose window. We renovated completely the sacristy. We dealt with a flood in the basement. We had a hurricane that came out of the blue and knocked out power to much of the village for a week or more. And of course, the air conditioning system in the church also broke. But there was no rush to fix it this summer because we were told that we had to keep our windows open for worship anyways. So there we are. We did afterwards install an enhanced filter and I-wave air purification system to limit the spread of microbes through our HVAC system. But please be aware, next year we are going to have to replace the AC units in here if you want to have air conditioning in the summer. And like anything else in church life, it's not going to be cheap. Now we're looking at proposals right now. But once we get them, we will be hitting you up for money a little bit later. So this is fair warning, unless of course you want to sweat through the summer. Your choice. So speaking of money, Michael Gleason is going to give a report from the Finance Committee in a minute. I'm not asking you up just yet. But first off, I do want to thank all of you for your faithfulness in keeping up with your pledges this year. This has been critical, and it will continue to be critical for the life of this parish. Some of you have also made very generous gifts to one project or another, or one fund or another, and thank you for those. It's a sign of faithfulness. It's a sign of trust and hope in the future of this parish. So thank you. One other piece of technology that we started using in 2020, incidentally, was a new accounting software. And I can tell you that we're still trying to work out some of the bugs and the features in this, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. So what lies ahead for 2021? Well, as I was saying to somebody the other day, actually I think it was Michael, there is light at the end of the tunnel, but nonetheless, it is a long tunnel. Last year, at this time, we didn't know what lies ahead, but we didn't know that we didn't know what lies ahead. But now we know we don't know what lies ahead, but we know that we don't know what lies ahead. So I don't know if that's better or worse, but it is what it is. We don't know what lies ahead for 2021. At some point, large amounts of people will have been vaccinated, most likely in the fall or maybe late summer. And we may be able to start to think a little more and act a little more like the way we were before. The social distancing may ease up a bit, but for now, it's still a ways off, and there are still lots of variables that we just don't know. But we know that we don't know. But the life and worship of the church is going to go on. And as hard as it may be to believe now, we will be better and stronger for having lived through this. And for now, as I mentioned in my sermon, we need to continually look to God to get us through this. In faith, in prayer, in supplication, we need to each be praying for God's healing to touch our own lives and for God's wisdom and strength to bless his church. Because it is Christ's strength that will keep us going even when our own fails. I would like to ask Michael Gleason, who is the chair of the Finance Committee, to come forward and present the report from the Finance Committee. And then I will add an addendum to the report. To the lectern. Mm-hmm.
Good morning. Some of the things I'm going to talk about today, Father Kevin already mentioned, so forgive me if anything is repeated. On March 5th last year, the Finance Committee had our first meeting. Our task was to find a way to tackle the projected $42,000 budget deficit for 2020. We discussed various fundraising ideas and opportunities we wanted to explore that would help to generate income for the parish. Of course, little did we know that a week later, the parish building would be completely shut down and our lives would be turned upside down.
Could you pull the microphone to your mouth a little bit more so that there you go.
And here we are a year later. Although we were unable to do any of the traditional fundraising to close our budget gap, we managed to end 2020 in a much better position than we expected. If you refer to the Statement of Financial Position report, you will note that that's the single-page report. You will note that our operating account ended with a deficit of only $6,900 instead of the projected $42,000. Some of this can be attributed to reduced staffing and building use during the lockdown. We thankfully had no snowstorms, although we'll see about today. So no large charges for snow removal, and savings were made in a number of other areas as well. In addition, as Father Kevin mentioned, parishioners have been very faithful, despite not being here, about fulfilling their pledges and making very generous extra gifts. The end result is that we finished 2020 in a much better position than we expected to. Also on the Statement of Financial Position, you may note the Diocesan Fund, which is the investment fund where the parish keeps the majority of our financial assets, recovered well at the end of 2020 as it followed the stock market. At the beginning of 2020, the fund was about $390,000. It took a significant hit in the spring, but recovered and is now just over $400,000, which is not bad considering what a strange year it has been. There have been very generous gifts to two specific funds. The live streaming fund, which Father Kevin mentioned, the Sacristy Renovation Fund and the Endowment Fund all received very generous gifts and has enabled us to install the live streaming equipment that we use as we speak, and has enabled us to renovate the sacristy, which was badly in need of repair. The Endowment Fund, I would like to take a moment to put a spotlight on, some of you may not be aware of, is a fund that was started several years ago by the vestry to gradually set aside funds that will eventually serve as an endowment for the parish. The funds themselves are not to be used, but they're there to generate investment income that can eventually be used for capital maintenance and repairs. Please, for those of you who may be considering including the church in your wills, the Endowment Fund is a great way to invest in the long-term stability of our parish. You may notice the capital fund is fairly low. This is the fund used for general building improvements and repairs that are not otherwise budgeted or paid for from designated funds. In the property report, you will see a long list of repairs and improvements done during the year. These include, like the previously mentioned, upgrading the HVAC system to purify the air, minor issues like painting to major issues like plumbing repair. These things are typically paid from the capital fund. Looking ahead to 2021, we have been made aware that the air conditioning system in the space is not functioning and, as mentioned, will need to be replaced. That alone is likely to cost somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000. We have a beautiful aging building, but we need your continued support with this fund. The actual budget report, that's the 3-page report, BAB, is a side-by-side comparison of the 2020 budget with the 2020 actual numbers and then the 2020 projected budget. Here you will see the routine income and expenses for the parish over the year. This is not the place to go over every line, but you will see for the year that our receipts come in a little bit over budget, and this, along with cutting expenses that we could, helped us to reduce our deficit for 2020. The 2021 budget, which was accepted by the vestry at the January meeting, was created by the Finance Committee using the 2020 budget and making adjustments to some areas where we thought we needed to change to bring it in line with 2020's actual numbers, or where we thought we could see some savings. For instance, we suggested that now that parishioners have gotten used to not necessarily receiving communion, when Father Kevin is away, the parish could do a morning prayer instead of having a priest for a full mass every time. This can result in more than a couple of $1,000s in savings every year. Many of our expenses, though, cannot significantly be cut or would seriously hinder our ability as a parish to recover and move forward after the pandemic has ended. So the 2020 budget includes relatively few changes to the pre-pandemic 2020 budget. We simply don't know what 2021 holds. One of our strengths, and me and Father Kevin have talked about at length about this, of our parish is that we have never relied on rental or business income from our property or our parish hall to pay expenses. While before the pandemic, we thought it would be a great idea if we could find a way to generate more income from allowing groups to use the property. One of the things we discovered during the pandemic was that since we never had this income, we never missed it when it would have been gone. Some parishes rely heavily on outside income to keep their parishes afloat, and they are suffering badly this year. We aren't, and the reason we aren't is that our common life as a parish is supported by our membership. It is in your pledges that keep the church running, not any outside business ventures that puts us in a better position. That puts us in a better position than many parishes as we enter 2021 after an incredibly difficult 2020. The last thing I want to focus your attention on is the status of pledges for 2021. So far for 2021, we have received 61 pledges for a total of $173,000 and change. Last year, that number was 88 pledges for a total of $228,000 and change. So we still have a way to go to match last year's pledges. If you have not submitted your pledge yet for 2021, please do so as soon as possible. I just realized I have no idea where the cameras are.
It's way down underneath okay. Jesus over there, so it's okay. He's watching.
I'm at the very end.
Yeah.
This concludes, literally the very end. This concludes the report from the Finance Committee.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I have an addendum to add to the Finance Committee report, is that we did receive from one vestry member a list of questions regarding specifically the BA, well, both reports, financial reports, asking for clarity on why some monies go here, why some monies go there, why some things are reported, why some things don't seem to be reported. And it's far too detailed to go into here, but they are worth looking into. So the vestry and the Finance Committee are going to look into those questions and come back to you. We will send out to the parish a new financial report at the end of March. Once we've had the chance to research all of these questions, it's really about looking for clarity in the report. The report can be confusing to read at times. It can seem hard, like the numbers don't add up. So for the most part, we believe that the assets are probably correct, the overall assets, because those are checked with our bank statements on a monthly basis. They are reconciled. There may be some discrepancy in which monies go into which funds. So we are going to look into that. We will get back to you with answers to those questions and with a fuller, hopefully more clear finance report at the end of March. So that's our goal for that. Those were the only questions that I received in advance of the meeting. Are there questions from the floor regarding anything reported thus far? Do we have a result?
I'm sorry?
Do we have a result?
Yes.
Oh, all right, well, hold on. What good timing that is. Wow. Wow, okay. Just a couple things that from me personally before I'll give you the report of the election. Many of you are probably wondering about the Friendship Fair. We're in a Friendship Fair year. So the steering committee did meet at the end of last year. And the plan at this time is that we will go forward with a Friendship Fair in 2021. We will have to adapt it as we go forward because frankly we just don't know what the situation is going to be on the ground. In the fall things might be a lot better, but who knows. We expect that there will still be some social distancing precautions necessary in October. We are working forward with the plans for that Friendship Fair with the expectation that there will be some necessary changes to how we do things. For instance, there may be no indoor dining. That may have to be sacrificed to this. It may have to be outdoor dining only. There will be another meeting coming up in the spring, or coming up in late winter or spring with the steering committee, and more information is going to come on that. But do keep it on your calendars. We are still planning on having it. Regarding donations, right now we are only accepting items of a silent auction quality. So nice furniture, nice antiques, things that you think belong, most of you know what the silent auction stuff is, things that you think are of silent auction quality, we will accept with a couple caveats. One, it needs to be approved by either Mark Weisenreeder or by Bill Cooper. And the easiest way to do that is to snap a photo of it and email it to them. And they can take a look and tell you, yes, this is wonderful, no, this is trash, and let you know whether or not this is silent auction quality. That's the first caveat. Number two, it has to make it here into the building on its own. I'm tired, you're tired, we don't have a crew around here that can move heavy furniture, so we're happy to accept it. It's got to make it here on its own. We're not going to go get it. So those are the two caveats for silent auction quality things. After Easter, then we will start accepting general donations and work out places to put them and what to do with them and sorting them and work nights and all that sort of fun stuff that we normally do. We'll work out that, but that's after Easter. So please don't bring us anything that's not silent auction quality before Easter. Obviously, so many things with our common life have changed, and one of the things that, all churches are run by a small group of devoted people. This is not unique to our parish. This is common with all churches. You've got a core group that really do the bulk of the work. COVID has made this 10 times worse because many of you are dealing with being school teachers with small children at home. You are dealing with healthcare crises. You are in high-risk groups and understandably trying to avoid getting sick and dying. There's so much going on, and I know of so much stuff going on in everybody's lives, hence my sermon this morning. So I totally understand the need to step back and say no when somebody asks you to do something. And I totally understand being tired and not having the energy to do it. That being said, the work of this church goes on, and it's falling on fewer and fewer shoulders. So from Eucharistic ministers to the altar guild to the ushers to just normal things of daily life here, a lot of times I'll put out a plea for help with something, and all I get as a response is the sound of crickets. I understand, and I don't blame people. However, I do have to put out the plea and say, if God is calling you to serve and to help out, and if you feel that you've got the energy and the time that you can help out this parish in some way, please do. Please do. Because it's a smaller and smaller group that is keeping life going right now, especially until we get past this pandemic. If you're able to help out in any way, step up. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
One thing of business, the clerk requests that we have a motion to accept the Finance Committee report, and I would like a second for that.
Okay. You're moving to accept the finance.
Accept the report.
Why? We don't have to do that.
We always accept the treasurer's report, so I thought we should only accept it.
Would you like, all right, you've made the motion. Is there a second? All right, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Can I see the results of the... Okay, Pam Haywood, I hate to tell you, you have been reelected as warden for another term. It was close. It was close. So, with the vestry members, there are a lot of churches that have never had a competitive election. We regularly have competitive elections. And so thank you for those of you who are willing to run. If you don't get elected in 1 year, please run again, because we are blessed with numbers of candidates that are able to run. And just because you're not elected to vestry doesn't mean that you can't be active and involved in some other areas. So, but we only had 4 positions and 5 candidates running. So those who were elected to vestry off of this slate are Carolyn Brancato, Catherine DeSantis, John Hinkle, and Corinne Musa. So thank you to those members who run. Thank you to everybody who ran for vestry. Please, this happens every year. We have a slate come off. There's more positions open. So if you didn't get on this year, or if I asked you to run and you hemmed and hawed about it, step up, run for vestry. It's really not that painful. So thank you for those of you who serve on vestry. Again, it's critical to the running of this parish. Congratulations. And also let's take the time to thank those who are coming off of the vestry, some of whom who are finishing 2 terms and not able to be reelected. So thank you for those who served. So that is the vestry election. Is there any other business for the meeting that needs to be taken care of?
I would just like to make the comment that we are grateful as a parish for the work that the rector has done this year. There's been grace under pressure because there has been something new that has to be done, and he has accepted a lot of additional duties and served. We appreciate that.
For those of you who didn't hear, Mark was just saying how fabulous I am. So that will be recorded in the minutes. So that, yes? Oh yes, the parish meeting for next year is who has the calendar? February 6th. So the next parish meeting will be the first Sunday in February, February the 6th in 2022. So is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? Seconded. Moved by Mark, seconded by Nancy. All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.
I'll just take it right here. Thanks. Mark looked at me and said, my condolences.
You want just the live one?
Just the-